The Nashville Predators take their 18-game point streak into Arizona tonight, which means a lot of fans are thinking, uh-oh, those pesky Coyotes are going to end the streak, aren't they? Plus, we'll look at maybe one of the more surprising reasons behind the Predators' success this year, a guy a lot of people had written off before the season even started, Gustav Nyquist. We'll look at his season on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day, every single day. And from my Detroit Tigers hat to you, happy opening day, everybody, whichever team you root for. Here's to a fun season of baseball at the ballpark. And for those of you listening back in Nashville, let's hope we get a team in the majors here soon. But until then, go Sounds. This is your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we do want to start out with a special shout out to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you guys and we appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio. Normally have a partner in crime, but Ann Kimmel has the day off. A lot to talk about on today's edition of the show. The Predators have that big 18-game point streak now, thanks to that thrilling win over the Vegas Golden Knights. Of course, the next opponent up for them is the Arizona Coyotes, a team that has notoriously had the Nashville Predators number, especially out in the desert. Can the Predators avoid a big upset and keep that streak going? Plus, Gustav Nyquist, a big reason for the Nashville Predators' success this year, absolutely killing it on that top line, having a career season. And if you remember, there was a lot of question marks about him being on the team before this year even started. So what's been the secret to his success here in Nashville? Plus, here's a fun segment. A lot of people have looked at last game. They've also looked at that Red Wings game a couple nights ago and have said, wow, these may be the two best games of the season. Is it really the two best games of the season, or are they really? We're going to rank the best games of the season so far and see where the last two contests fit in. Before we get into all of that, do want to mention today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. Again, that's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right. Nashville Predators taking on the Arizona Coyotes tonight. A lot at stake, trying to extend that record point streak. The Nashville Predators' thrilling win over the Vegas Golden Knights pushed that to 18 games. Which is still the franchise record. They're going for 19 tonight to extend that record. The only problem is their opponent is the Arizona Coyotes. Now, Coyotes, not a great team this year. They're 30, 37, and 5. They're still firmly out of the playoff picture. Maybe getting better year by year. Who knows? But as everybody here in Nashville can tell you, the Coyotes have kind of had the Nashville Predators number here over the past couple of years, especially at home. Since that playoff series started, the 2020 play-in series, whatever you want to call it, Nashville Predators 6-8 against Arizona in that time frame. They are also 16-31 all time against Arizona on the road. So they don't have the best track record of playing in the desert. Fans may remember that they got absolutely demolished in the playoff series all the way back in 2012. It's more than just the Glendale, Arizona bars, apparently, that are knocking the Nashville Predators team out of sorts out there, because the Nashville Predators have, for some reason, never played their best hockey out in the desert. It's an interesting thing because it's like one of those little, as Ann Kimmel would call it, hitches in the giddy up that just every team seems to have, where it just doesn't necessarily matter what the other team's record is or how they're playing. It's just something about the way they play that always seems to stump a certain team. You may remember back in the mid to late 2020s or 2010s rather, where the Nashville Predators were cup contenders, especially those later years. And the Detroit Red Wings were very much not. They're at the tail end of their dynasty. The Predators by far had the better players, the better roster. Detroit was kind of on the decline. Were really bad for a couple of years, but the Red Wings still wound up winning like 10 straight games and like 11 out of 12, or it was 11 out of 13 or something like that. And for some reason, you couldn't make any sense of it because the Predators were always the better team. It was just Detroit always seemed to have their number. And it seems like that's kind of where Arizona is right now. No matter how good the Predators are or how bad Arizona is or vice versa or anything like that, it just always comes back to, for some reason, the way Arizona plays, it always gives the Nashville Predators fits. And part of the reason is because Arizona is kind of been a team like Nashville. They're a team that lives and dies on their back end, on their goaltending. Connor Ingram, our buddy, having a absolutely phenomenal season in net this year. We've talked a lot about his success, 6 shutouts for the former Predators prospect this year, the maven of the 2022 playoffs, 908 save percentage. And speaking of former Preds prospects, Carl Vermelka, 902 save percentage. Not bad either for a backup. He's got a shutout in there. And they're also a team that's just kind of built with, a very good kind of top line who handles a lot of the scoring. And then they sort of rely on their depth and their collection of talent rather than just sort of outwork you with, 4 solid lines. This is a team that relies on a lot of clutch goals from role players, much like the Nashville Predators have done over the years. You talk about Lawson Krause, a guy who has burned the Predators a couple times this year. Nick Bukestad having a good year. That's another one who's historically kind of been a bottom line player who is stepping up and scoring a lot of goals for Arizona this year. You go up and down the lineup, and Liam O'Brien, with 11 points, and guys like Tyler Boyd are dangerous, and Alexander Kerfoot are dangerous. So this is a team that, they don't necessarily have the stars, but they have players that work really hard and can get those sort of gritty goals that turn games around. They have guys that can win battles against, other teams' depth pieces and depth lines. And that's sort of why Arizona has kind of had the Nashville Predators numbers, because they have had those depth guys that have won their battles. Clayton Keller, we talk about him being an absolutely Preds killer in the way he's played against Nashville. He's done a really good job sort of beating the Predators' top line and top pair. He's paired out there, with Roman Josi and Ryan O'Reilly and Philip Forsberg a lot of games, and he's still absolutely racking up points anytime he plays the Nashville Predators. So if you're Nashville, that's kind of what you're looking for, is you're looking to say, how do we win these matchups tonight? How do we get it so that we are not, like Forsberg and Josi aren't on the ice? We have Colton Sissons out there. We have Cole Smith out there. How do we make sure that those guys don't lose their battles? Because that's where the Nashville Predators are going to lose their game. It doesn't matter who's out there on the ice for the Nashville Predators, whether it's that top line that's absolutely cooking, whether it's the depth pieces that they have. This is a game in which all of the Nashville Predators pieces from top to bottom are going to have to win their battles. And that's the only way the Nashville Predators are going to break this sort of Calypso black hole sort of streak against the Coyotes. But, they have the team. Let's see if they can do it tonight. The one thing to watch for the Nashville Predators is going to be number 91 for the Arizona Coyotes. And that is one Mr. Doan. Nope, Shane Doan didn't come back. We're talking about Josh Doan. If you missed this the other night, Josh Doan, who is the son of Shane Doan, made his NHL debut in front of that Mullet Arena crowd the other night, wound up stepping up and scoring two goals in his debut. And remember, because his dad was Mr. Coyotes for so long, this is a guy born and raised in Arizona, coming back, son of a legend, maybe the greatest player all time in Coyotes history, coming onto the ice and absolutely killing his debut with two goals. This is a situation in which anytime he has the puck on his stick, there's going to be a little extra juice in the crowd. There's going to be a little extra juice on the ice. This is almost, I equate it to like the early days of Alexander Radulov, or, to another extent, maybe Blake Jeffrian when he came up that first year. Remember, Blake Jeffrian was pretty good for a couple of months for the Nashville Predators when he made his debut, where it's just whenever anything was on his stick, the crowd sort of did the half stand up, lean forward sort of thing. The players seemed to buzz a little bit more. It just always seemed like there's a little jolt of energy. And that's something the Preds are going to have to watch out for when Doan has the puck on his stick tonight, because he's the hometown hero. A lot of Coyotes fans have been waiting a very long time to see him on the ice represent the team. He's a hometown kid. They're going to be loudly behind him. And I think this is something the Predators absolutely need to watch out for. We'll see if the Predators can sneak out a win against the Coyotes. One guy who we hope is going to have a big game to make that happen, number 14 for the Nashville Predators, Gustav Nyquist, a guy that a lot of people doubted was going to be a big player for the Nashville Predators this year, maybe more of a depth guy, is all of a sudden on a career best year in terms of scoring and is one of the hottest players on the Nashville Predators team. What's changed? Why has Gus Nyquist had such a big year? We'll talk about that coming up in just 1 second. First, though, again, want to mention today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You know, all those brackets that got busted by all of the madness of the first two rounds. I'm looking at you, people who picked Kentucky to go all the way. Doesn't matter, because FanDuel is giving you a second chance. FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney, regardless of what your bracket looks like. So whether you're betting on a big upset on a number one seed, or you're picking a favorite to go all the way, you can go dancing on America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Again, that's $200 that you can use on anything. Point spreads, money lines, prop bets. You can even pick which team will win it all. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right. Are you guys watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Are you tired of turning down the volume with all that shouting from Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless or, I don't know, Jared Stillman? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Speaking of teams, Gustav Nyquist has been a big addition to the Nashville Predators team this season. The guy is absolutely on fire as part of that team's top line. 20 goals, 45 assists, 65 points. This is a guy that's only scored more than 60 points in his career once before. He's already passed his career high. It's funny because remember back when Gustav Nyquist signed, there was a lot of people around the fan base, maybe me and Ann included, that were like, yeah, I don't know about this. Yeah, I mean, you think back to where Gus Nyquist was in his career before he came to Nashville. He was injury prone a lot. He didn't have the best reputation as a two-way player. This was a guy that, um, I think it was the Blue Jackets writers that were just, in their season review. It's like, yeah, as long as this guy is nowhere near defense, this is a guy that, hey, you can trust to be faster, maybe score a couple of clutch goals here and there. This was a guy that I think a lot of people were like, okay, this is a guy that's going to be an okay third liner, maybe a second liner, maybe can fill in on the top in the pinch, maybe contribute to the power play here and there sometimes. Not a lot of people had high hopes for him. They were just kind of thinking like, yeah, I don't know about this. My former penalty box radio employer, Alex Doherty, straight out faced out. He's like, yeah, this seems more like kind of a questionable signing, I think, as he called it. So, what in the world has happened to Gustav Nyquist this year? He did start, kind of in the middle of the lineup, was quickly promoted to that top line around the end of October, maybe beginning of November, since Cody Glass started getting hurt. And it's just never looked back. Like, there's never been a point in which Gustav Nyquist has not been one of the first three forwards off the ice for Nashville. Along with his line mates Philip Forsberg or Ryan O'Reilly, or as O'Reilly has now called it, the Swedish meatball line. It's absolutely incredible to see what Gus Nyquist has done this year. You look at some of the numbers this year for Nyquist. Again, we mentioned 65 points, already 5 points past his career high. That's going to keep going up because he's on pace to play 82 games. His expected goal percentage is 52.47%. The first time he's had an expected goal percentage above 50% since 2020. His Corsi 4 is also at 52.3%, which is more than 50 for the first time since 2019. And his expected goals this year, 3.05 per 60 minutes, the highest rate of his career by far. So not only, look, obviously being on the ice with Philip Forsberg, who himself is having a career year, is certainly going to help matters with that. Being on there with Roman Josi, a strong offensive defenseman, is going to help with that. But Nyquist is contributing a lot in his own way, too. You look at his speed. That's the first thing that's always jumped off the page with Gustav Nyquist is his speed. He's got the ability to, sort of accelerate in tight spaces and make what looks like either like routine plays or plays in which it looks like the defense kind of have it angled, make it a little bit tougher for them to defend. He can break loose on, we call it like, breaking contain a little bit in other sports, where it looks like he's covered, and then 1 second just turns on the jets, and the other defenders are nowhere near capable enough to try to do that. I'm trying to remember what play it was or what game it was a few weeks ago where, and Alex Doherty pointed out, is this is something that wouldn't have happened in sort of the older version of the Nashville Predators. It might have been the Colorado game in which, Roman Josi sort of did this big cross ice stretch pass, like from, his end of the blue line to the other. And it just sprang Gustav Nyquist. That's sort of his game, is he's got the ability to sort of, get in a place where players forget about him and then turn on the jets. So by the time you see him scrolling or, streaking down the ice, it's too late. You can't defend that. That's sort of his game. But the other big thing I love about Gustav Nyquist's game this year has been his two-way game. Remember, like we said, this is a guy that had the reputation, and please God, don't let Gustav Nyquist anywhere near to the defensive end of the ice. But he's sort of bucked that trend this year. He's been on the penalty kill, if you recall. He has, he's out there whether the Predators are up one or down one. And sometimes, when you're down one, or I'm sorry, sometimes when you're up one, that's as big of a must perform situation as being up one. And it's just the fact that he is able to win puck battles along the board It's the fact that he's able to kind of recover quickly and sort of get in front of pucks and challenge people. And he's got that speed to kind of go up and challenge people with the puck. That's contributing to him being a pretty good shutdown forward in his own right. And yeah, he is reaping the benefits of, Philip Forsberg playing great and Roman Yossi playing great and Ryan O'Reilly having a good bounce back year. But at the same time, it's like you look at Nyquist as an individual level and you see him elevating his game as well. You just watch him solo and he's got a great sense with the puck. He's got great vision and a great scoring sense. And a lot of that is contributing to him having a big year for the Nashville Predators. He keeps that up. Boy, may go down as one of the best free agent signings in Nashville Predators history. You absolutely love to see that. We'll see if Gustav Nyquist can have a big night tonight. Let's see if he can contribute a couple of goals on the score sheet, keep his record-setting season going. The Predators will need a big game from their top line to knock off that Arizona jinx that has seemed to plague them for a couple of years. So it is a 9 o'clock puck drop tonight, 9 o'clock Central. We will be here tomorrow to recap what went down. But before we do that, let's take a look back at the last couple of games. There's been a lot of people saying these past two games have been the best games of the season so far. Do we agree? We will look at the list of top games from this year and see where these last two rank among them. That's coming up in just 1 second. First, I want to mention today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die in the garage alive and kicking. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right. As we mentioned before the break, on tomorrow's Locked On Predators podcast, Ann will be back. She will recap the big game against the Arizona Coyotes. I think everybody's got a little bit of a bad feeling about this one just because of the history with Arizona. But who knows? Let's be optimistic and see if the Nashville Predators can break sort of their bad reputation against the Yotes recently. Let's go back to the past couple of games, though, because a lot of people have been mentioning how just rock solid and how fun these past two games have been at Bridgestone Arena. Everybody sort of walked away from that the game against Detroit and thought, oh my God, that was maybe the best game of the season, one of the most exciting games to watch at Bridgestone, in a very long time. And then all of a sudden the next game happens and the Nashville Predators have a 3-goal comeback in the fourth period or in the third period and win the game in overtime. And now everybody is thinking, oh, that's one of the best games I've seen in a very long time. So what have been the best games of this season for the Nashville Predators, and where do the past two rank? Let's start with the Detroit game, because that's the one that I think a lot of people, left thinking, oh my God, that was so exciting. Best game of the year. I have that third on my list of best games of the season. It had it all, It was an old division rival to keep the streak alive. It was a nail biter. Both goalies were, absolutely giving their best performance. Alex Lyon and UC Saros. We pictured a lot of, it featured a lot of scrums, a lot of animosity, the most handsome hockey fight of all time with Philip Forsberg and Mo Seider. And then when Forsberg came out and scored that go-ahead goal with 5 minutes left, one of the loudest moments I think we've ever experienced at Bridgestone Arena. That crowd absolutely lost their mind. So I had that one as my third top game of the season. The second top game of the season was 2 nights ago against the Vegas Golden Knights. God, I mean, this was one of those games in which you just sort of sat back and thought, maybe there is a little bit of magic to this Nashville Predators team after all. Like maybe things are going in our favor a little bit. Because, we've known the pattern for this Nashville Predators team for a little bit. They go on a good run and then they just absolutely get smoked by a really good team. They come crashing back to earth. They lose all their momentum, blah, 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 blah. So I think when the Nashville Predators went down 4-1, everybody was expecting, yep, this is kind of what we were expecting. So, for the Nashville Predators to come back in that third period, well, that was just, it seemed to be a perspective changing win. It seemed to be one of those, it's like, it doesn't matter who we're up there against. We got a team capable of coming back and fighting back against any team in the league. And I think that team or that win really proved what the Nashville Predators are capable of doing. And as we mentioned, again, that Bridgestone Arena crowd absolutely lost their damn minds when they were able to cap off that comeback. Absolutely loved the perspective or some of the videos and stuff and the perspective from the fans being able to see the crazy response from the Bridgestone Arena crowd in some of those videos. Not only when Gustav Nyquist tied it up, but when Roman Josi scored it in overtime. I spent the entirety of work the next day doing nothing but just refreshing those videos on YouTube. So I had that as the second best. So you may be asking, what is the best game of the season so far? If those are the second and third, for me, it's still that Colorado game back in November. You guys know which one I'm talking about. This was the just phenomenal back and forth game in which the Nashville Predators won 4-3 thanks to the back-to-back third period under a minute left goals from Philip Forsberg and Yakov Trenin, ironically now with the Colorado Avalanche. God, it was just, being able to kind of be there and experiencing that was sort of the first glimpse of, oh, this is going to be a fun season this year. It was against Colorado, who is always, the thorn in Nashville Predators' side. Even back in the 2018 playoffs when Nashville was the top team in the league and Colorado was the team that just kind of barely scraped their way into the playoffs. It was always sort of that still air of why are the Nashville Predators, why are the Colorado Avalanche matching up so well against the Nashville Predators? So the fact that it was against that opponent in Bridgestone Arena, the fact that Philip Forsberg was able to kind of just muscle his way into the game tying goal against the Avalanche's top line, and the fact that it was the Avalanche's top pair, namely Cale Makar, the guy who's been going toe-to-toe with Roman Josi for defensive supremacy in the West for years now, the fact that it was him making up the mistake or, making the key mistake that led to that go-ahead goal, oh, that was chef's kiss. Really was. So I had that still as the best game of the year. What do you guys think? Do you have one of these most recent games as number one? Let me know in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment, or if you're listening, be sure to tweet us at LO_Predators. You can tweet me at _NSMorgan or X me or whatever they're called now. Still never really got that social media thing. Again, tomorrow we'll have recap from Predators Coyotes. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about the extension of the now 19-game winning streak. Either that or we'll talk about why the Coyotes continue to just absolutely have the Nashville Predators number. But either way, a must-watch show for you tomorrow. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back with an all-new episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.